What's up, everyone? My name is Aly, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. This week's episode features the return of Minneapolis art pop extraordinaire Nat Harvie. Their latest record, New Virginity, explores texture, love, rebirth, the surreal, childhood, and noise, embracing the future rather than reject it. We talked about Duluth, isolation, production, gardening, and more. It was great to go deep on the fantastic new album and catch up. Without further ado, here's my interview with Nat Harvie on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How are you doing on this Thursday in May? I know we were talking off the record that it rained last night. It's feeling good.
I feel amazing. My garden is very happy. I'm looking out my window. I see a robin has made its nest in my yard. Everything is as it should be.
What are you growing in your garden? If anything specific.
What are we? Oh my God! Wait, 2 robins.
2.
Unprecedented. Okay. We got some peppers, a lot of different kinds of tomatoes, some peas, some. What do we got? Rosemary, dill, parsley, sage, a lot of basil, my caprese garden, and then some straight Kush, baby.
No, it's funny to find that like smoke shops that can't and dispensaries can't sell flour, but they can still sell seeds at least. So that's nice, even as the state kind of takes its time.
What a time to be living in.
Yeah.
Huh?
You didn't know, but this is actually just going to be a podcast about your garden. So we're just going to talk about that for another 45 minutes. And
I could go on.
I believe it. I would just be learning because I'm not a gardener. I'm not informed.
It's so easy.
Yeah. You just need to do it. Cool.
You just got to do it.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the newest record, New Virginity. It's coming out on June 7th. That's about a few weeks from now. So, caught you at a good time. It's your first new solo music, if I'm not mistaken, since Married in Song, which is the record we talked about in 2022. Before we get too far into the record, the other, at least, body of work, I suppose, that you've worked on and have put out since then came out pretty shortly after Married in Song, and that was the Strawberry Roan collab with Cole.
Yeah.
Just kind of as a little preface, as we get warmed up, talk a little bit about that. I know Cole's been a longtime friend and collaborator, but it was cool to see y'all doing a full record together.
Yeah, I don't know. We were sort of hot on the heels of COVID. I had been living in Portland, or was I? I was living in Portland. This is during COVID, and I think coming back to Minnesota, I wanted to just be in the studio with my friend and sort of reacquaint myself to sort of like physically, really engaging with those sort of tools on this more sort of embodied level. And Cole and I had been talking a lot about fields. We were very interested in fields at that point. I had been doing this field recording project, and we made a song together in Gray Cloud Dunes. It's a research area southeast of the city.
Okay.
We got excited about that, and we wanted to make a whole sort of record about this sort of like imagined pasture. So yeah, we did that. We brought in our friends Zach Warpinski on pedal steel and Hillary James on the cello, and it was a really good experience. We cut that in like a couple days at Salon at Holly Hansen of Zoo Animal, her recording studio, and ended up working with this label out of Austin called RL Canyon, and I don't know. It was a good experience. People seem to like it.
Yeah. We might have talked about this last time, but about was 2022 about when you came back from Portland? What prompted that return as you Was that when you moved to the cities, or were you back in Duluth for a little while when you returned to Minnesota, at least?
I don't mean to be cagey, but it's so fucking boring that I don't think we should even get into it.
That's so fair. Okay. I appreciate the your self-awareness and the candidness. Yeah, well, let's just dive into the record then. That's why we're here. That's at least what I was looking forward to talking about the most. Yeah, so with this record, New Virginity, I saw something, I think you were talking about, I think it was Shovel that at least has been in the works for the last 3 or 4 years, but was that kind of an outlier as far as a song that's been kind of kicking around for a long time, or has this record kind of been germinating for a period?
Some of it was sort of deceptively old. I started sort of seriously working on this record in the summer of 2020. I think at the time I was shopping around my last solo EP, Married in Song, to a couple labels, and I just needed something to work on in the meantime. So my friend Candace, who makes shoes in Duluth. I was living in Duluth at the time, and she had this space behind her shoemaking shop, Hemlock's Leatherworks, that she let me use for the summer, and I would just I would just go there all day and make. I made this record 2 times. So I made it once sort of behind the shoe shop all alone, kind of remotely collaborating with my friend and sometimes producer engineer Eric Littman in Chicago. He passed away a couple years ago, and I had sort of stalled out on the project, and I needed to make it again. So I came to my friend Andrew Broder here in the city, and he and I sort of finished the record together. But it was sort of, I was slowly cooking on it for about 4 years, which makes it sound like I don't know, like I'm like, this is my opus or something. But I was just really busy.
Yeah,
you know?
That's how it goes. Just life has other things for us than just working on the record sometimes. And, it's not a bad thing to have a balance. Was there any particular
I never said I had a balance.
I won't quote you on that. Was there any particular catalyst for kind of revisiting, resuscitating the record with Andrew and crafting it into the version that we are hearing here? Was there like a gap at all when you weren't really thinking about it, especially as you put out Married in Song, or what was that?
While I was while I was doing all the legwork of putting out Married in Song, I was sort of, I was thinking less about this record. So there was a gap around the release of Married in Song, but I'm not sure how I met Broder. I think I had, some of my friends in the band Polisa are longtime buddies and collaborators of his, and maybe I met him through them. He had asked me to play at a residency that he was putting on at the Turf Club a couple of years ago, which ended up getting canceled because of COVID or something. But I'm just a great fan of a lot of his production work, and felt like he could really help me sort of bring the record to the place that I thought it needed to go to, and I was right. He was perfect. He was he's a very good producer. And it's funny too, because that's my job. I work on other people's records, and it's easy to have this sort of attitude of like, it's like being a great home cook and going to a restaurant and being like, well, I could make that at home,
Yeah.
But that's not what I would make at home, So it was a great experience of, sort of further leaning into trusting my collaborators, and I set him loose on these songs, and he really I feel like honored the sort of thing that they were, but elevated the songs in this way that I couldn't have really anticipated.
Yeah. Were the songs maybe even just like in the like how they were structured and like with like the lyrics and kind of concepts of each track, was that mostly finished before you
I
started
had
working
fully
out with,
mixed it. I had fully mixed the album, and then yeah, I mean, between the two sort of iterations of it, I think the lyrics are pretty much all the same. The song structure is roughly the same. Andrew did, I think most of what he did was sort of adding elements to sort of highlight these moments, sort of bolstering some of these little melodic flourishes, giving it a feeling of being in more of a place, maybe giving it more sort of weight and definition in certain areas.
Yeah. When you were first kind of putting that the initial iteration together, the one that was before the little break and passing some things over to Andrew, what were the kind of the sounds and ideas that were really exciting you musically as you were trying to kind of connect the music and the lyrics and just turn the songs into the combination of the two things instead of just like the respective elements?
I mean, I was working so alone. I was just like on my own in this weird room for like 8 hours every day. And I think the main thing was just, very used to, at the time I was very used to like playing in a, in like a rock and roll 3-piece, which is not really even the music, the kind of music that I was listening to at that time. But I think, I don't know, coming up in the Duluth scene originally, like as a teenager, like, I think I had this notion that like, well, if you want to play music, if you want to, make and present songs, the way to do that is by playing the guitar, and you get a bassist and a drummer. And it was just exploring some other instrumentation. I was playing a lot with, I had like a monophonic Moog synthesizer that I was playing with. And I was really, I think as a producer, like it was some of the first times that I had really sort of taken the drum machine a lot more serious as an instrument that can be expressive and I don't know, can move and do things. So
it can do things that even a drummer can't, and they each have like their respective strengths and abilities.
I mean, I don't want to say can't, but yeah, I mean, they're just different instruments, like it's
it does things differently.
Yeah, I was like, oh, a drum machine can be sweet, it can be pretty, like drums.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a time when I was starting to work more seriously as a mix engineer, and there's this kind of indie rock, like hi-fi drum sound, this sort of very lush, wide and detailed drum sound that everybody wants. This sort of this very lush this very lush, detailed thing, and I was getting asked a lot to help people get that sound, and I got so bored of it. So I think it was also me sort of running in the opposite direction from that thing.
Yeah, it just especially imagine you're just spending so much time listening to it and hearing the drum sound as you engineer it and balance it, and just that's a different kind of isolation than what the kind of experience of working, you said like at 8 hours in a room alone. Do you think that kind of affected the sensibilities of the record, that like it was made in solitude, or is that a pretty safe and like comfortable place for when you're working? Like how do you think the environment affected?
It was safe. It was kind of dark in there. I I guess I sing about that a little bit on the record, this feeling of sort of animal safety, you know, in my weird little burrow. And I don't know, coming back to Duluth sort of involuntarily because of the circumstances. I wasn't, you know, particularly like unhappy. In hindsight, it's like staggering the sort of the freedom that I had to work on I think it's the most time I've ever had to work on a record. But I think I want to be cautious about how I say this, because I was just feeling like like a sort of like an animal in an animal hole, or
like in your burrow, kind of.
Yeah, kind of, or like a child, maybe a little bit. You know, I think sort of being on my own and having very few opportunities to embarrass myself with the kind of sounds that I was making. I think it was more open to taking some risk that I wouldn't have otherwise taken if I was, you know, in a recording studio with a band. Yeah. And a lot, you know, some of that didn't make it to the record, but I learned a lot about my voice, maybe.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that. How did you kind of feel, how did that change in like as your, both in terms of your actual like singing and your vocal performance, but also as you were finding the words for this record and parsing out the ideas that were bubbling up as you were writing these songs and the things you were thinking and feeling about.
Yeah. Well, I think when I say voice, I do literally mean, you know, my voice. I think I found out that I can sing a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Harder than I realized. But more broadly, I think, yeah, I don't know. I think I was finding some things out about what I want to sound like, and sort of moving past this idea that I had sort of come up with of like, you know, your sound as a musician or an artist is sort of like the instruments that are around you, and like I guess I was moving away from an idea of sort of, you know, playing the instruments to an idea of sort of playing the song. And maybe shaking out sort of the last little bit of like of sort of arriving energy. I was like, I don't know. I think if you're going to be a songwriter, you have to be kind of a kid forever. But I think I got out sort of. I was writing this time where it's like, oh, I'm in my hometown in this very strange time. I'm remembering what it was like to be a kid. I'm not always going to remember this. And it, you know, the record's not necessarily like about childhood, but I don't know. I think I was like, yeah, shaking out these last few pieces of like really distinct, transferable sense memory of, I guess being
in that
small.
Environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely, even as a listener, get a sense of, it's not, you're right, like not like a childhood record, or like it's not like a concept diving into that, but there is a lot of kind of reckoning or investigating your yourself and how you've changed and grown up, and how things have just changed, and how you've grown, and kind of the idea of a reset, or like kind of a refreshing versus like trying to revise or like alter the past. Did you have kind of any
Right.
sense of, as you explored like memory and the ideas that again were coming out into the songs, even ones that were more about like, hey, this is inspired by or feels more about what's been happening recently. Not everything was like boxed into a certain
I think it's also
time.
not a. I mean, it's really not a. It's not a record that really deals with event.
Yeah.
I think I called the record "New Virginity" because I think on this record I'm really focused on this idea of resetting one's relationship to the sensual, sort of broadly, you know, in the same way that like the idea of virginity is like sort of arbitrary and nonsensical.
Yeah.
If we can invent the idea of a loss of virginity, which is so stupid, then I think we could also invent the idea of a regaining of virginity, of a sort of blinking and seeing for the first time again. And not necessarily in the sort of grandiose like way, but seeing simple things for the first time, seeing a piece of fruit on the counter, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of detail in the lyrics, whether it's like even like a line in the last track about thinking about your dog passing away. There's another line about eating apple seeds and thinking you're gonna die, and these kind of little moments that are kind of ground those parts of the songs without making it about, like you're saying, something grandiose or this huge overarching thing. That there's not a sense of that, even as you're singing about and grasping at these very intense emotions and these kind of quote unquote big ideas. It doesn't feel forced, if that makes sense. Like sometimes
Oh,
records
good.
are like sometimes records are like, this is trying to be about something, and that can be both it's a double-edged sword, I suppose. But with those ideas and those kind of feelings in mind, did it take time as you were working on the record to kind of get a sense of like, these are the things I found myself exploring that I maybe want to dive deeper into, or like, was it pretty?
It came pretty
unconscious?
fast.
Yeah.
It came pretty quick. I think I was just spending enough time at my studio that there was I don't know, when the something inside of me was getting used enough that it started up pretty quick each morning.
Yeah.
I think I had started there were little snippets of the writing that maybe some of them might, I think there's lines on the record that I'm pretty sure I wrote when I was like 19.
Were you like going through old like notes or like journals or like notebooks or something? Or, not to get
It's just stuff that I remembered.
stuff that you remembered. Okay. That's,
Yeah.
as someone who's very forgetful, that's impressive that you can hang on to like specific lines or details like that.
Yeah, maybe little snippets of melody. Honestly, it's hard to remember though. I'm not sure.
Been a hot minute. Keeping that also kind of in mind, with you would just kind of wake up sitting as you're initially writing the record and just be working for up to 8 hours, or working like basically like a day job, working on the music in the back of the store in Duluth. Was that
Yeah, and a lot of it generated nothing.
okay?
Some days I would just listen to, some days I would just listen to like one, program one dumb synthesizer sound and listen to it all day long and drive home.
I mean, sometimes you got to do that, and that's part of the process. Was that workman like almost? That's just like again, waking up, going over there, and working for 8 hours, even if it is spending the entire day programming and messing with one sound or one synth patch, or maybe it was a day where a song starts to come together, and you don't really know that necessarily when you're driving over in the morning. Was that sense of kind of work influencing how you were thinking about the record? And as you were, maybe it wasn't even a record yet, but just as you were working on the songs and the ideas that would maybe or maybe not stick around?
Maybe, but what is work? I think work in the sense of I must do this in order to eat. No. I would, I think maybe it was less like work and more like metabolism. I was very focused on this thing, and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna feel any level of accomplishment, I guess, or sort of understanding of this sort of time that I'm in right now. I need to keep doing this thing. I think largely it was just exciting to me, and that's how things are for me now still. Like I make other people's, or I work on other people's records full time, and you have to work very, very hard. You have to work a lot of hours if you want to make a living.
Yeah.
Doing that, and consequently, I work like usually 6 or 7 days a week. Does it feel like working? No, I think it's the same thing. It's just the one thing that I happen to be interested in.
Yeah.
So you just keep on doing it.
Yeah. That, as far as a motivator goes, and kind of like a reason to get up and get going in the day, that's better than like the times when you're dragging yourself out of your room and kind of forcing yourself to go, like you said, like do work with a capital W. It wasn't that kind of experience. Which, I mean, I'm sure there have been plenty of records, and there's other people that prioritize that, but at least I feel like, as far as like creating something goes, having like, it's still taking time and effort, and you're spending all like like you said, 6 to 7 days even just working on other people's records and listening and mixing, but it kind of transcends that almost, where it's just what you're doing that day. It's do you tend to think of things in kind of in a, when, especially when you're in the moment, as what is happening just now, like you try to be very present in like the feeling and idea that you're caught up in? Or is there
I better be, if I'm going to do a good job at whatever I'm doing.
yeah
But I get lazy and distracted. Everybody does.
But yeah, one of the other things I kind of want to ask about with this record is there's a lot of kind of like, it explores a lot of kind of, I don't know, ephemeral, and like I think there's the word magical realism, I think, that you used in like a quote somewhere, and just exploring these, not they're kind of yes and from reality. It's not quite like fantasy, but it's not just reality, and just like a very bare bones description of life. It's much more than that, and is investigating more than that. Is that always something you've kind of been drawn to, like this a little bit more abstract, and as you are also integrating very literal descriptions of like, here's this experience that I had when I was younger, or here's the detail that stuck out to me and like this memory, as well as kind of exploring almost like the miraculous. Like I think there's the lyric, if I staged a miracle, I can do it again and again and again.
Oh yeah.
Like what is your sense of that as you think about this record?
I mean, I'm trying to think of when I would have said magical realism as it pertains to this. I think
Someone copy pasted it into the Bandcamp bio, and that's where I found it at the very least.
Oh, it's in my bio,
or for the record, like the little paragraph you
funny.
can put underneath, like that.
I
Sometimes
guess I think maybe what I'm getting at with that is that like none of the claim, this sort of the things that are. Well, I don't want to speak too much to this because maybe it's all true, but I think that the claims that I make on this record about certain things happening that sound a little bit audacious. I guess yeah, I'm maybe invoking magical realism because there's no. When I think of magical realism, I think of this sort of the structure of there not, there's nothing to be proved. Something miraculous happens, and that's just the way it is, and you accept it. That's the way to like meet and understand magical realism.
Yeah.
I think
that's like the definition is as much as one can kind of come understand it. I've found.
So I think that's maybe what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Saying I don't, because for me, songwriting is about concision, and if we get into this sort of oh, what does it mean, expound on this idea, like I can't. I'm the point of this thing is to be, I think, as concise as I can, and I think it takes away from it's harder to get. There's a more difficult suspension of disbelief if you have to sort of prove something or sort of over explain something. I think that brings it too much into.
It's not like in a math class where you have to show every single step of how you got from the first idea or the problem to whatever your solution is.
Right. Yeah. I think
you're kind of living
proving
in
something
between.
Makes it so much less interesting.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like, it's not like this, the things that I'm saying are not that crazy, really.
No. But like they're evocative, and like the poetry and lyricism are, I think, rightfully separate things, but there's also a lot of overlap where you are exploring the poetic and as well as the literal, and kind of like we're gonna say just living in the in-between of kind of breaking everything down bit by bit and making it seem super literal, and the totally like abstract, the totally out there. It's in the middle instead of just putting itself into a clean box.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit already about working with Andrew for the record, but obviously he's not the only collaborator on the LP. It's a mixture of folks who have been in and around, you've been in mutual orbit with for a good time, and then at least some newer names. If you're looking through like the credits and everything, but so thinking as you work with the same folks and just kind of continue to collaborate with people like Cole and Brent and even Alan over the years, how have those collaborative relationships, maybe not even specific to the record, but just in general, how has time affected collaboration, and how when these relationships and connections deepen, comparatively thinking of someone like a new voice that is coming into the fold, and you're working with, and they're working with you, and is it, does it feel pretty similar? Is there a distinction versus like someone that you maybe met?
None of us get along anymore. We're all at odds with each other. No, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess there are. I guess I do sort of keep coming back to the same people. These are the people that I work with the most because I've worked with them the most. You know, like these are the, you know, some of my closest friends and people who I feel very seen by, and it's it's easy to work with these people because I'm already working with these people all the time. I do, you know, I've done some engineering I mixed a sort of long form piece for Cole last year, and I do a lot of engineering for Alan's. We're always together, and Brent Penny, I did his I did a lot of production and engineering on his latest release. So yeah, I mean, I'm just already in community with these people, but they, you know, they know what I like and what I'm trying to do, and they push me in ways that are informed by the time we've spent together and the work that we've done. So I think it just feels very natural and good. And also, you know, I'm very privileged to get to work with these people. Of course, I would continue to. Cole is the best musician, the best player I've ever gotten to work with. It's incredible. And, you know, and Alan too. Alan has dark powers. And he knows what I like, and I love him very much.
Yeah. The newer folks, at least to my eyes, were working with folks like Lily, La 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 La, and some just folks from across the country that aren't as localized to, or don't have like connections and origins. Maybe I'm uninformed in saying that, but like obviously a lot of the other folks have roots in the Midwest, if not in Minnesota. But how did you kind of expand that fold to bring in other folks? And is that...
It was a lot of stuff
pretty natural
through people that Andrew had been working with. I don't personally know Lily. I'm a fan of La 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 La. I think they've got some wonderful material. Broder had done a single. I think Broder had done a single with Lily, and we thought that would be a good voice for the single Sugar Boy that Lily's on. There was this string player Maya in somewhere in Europe that that Broder thought would be a good idea. You know, so it was, you know, and that's how these things often happen I do the same thing where it's, you know, working on someone's music. Oh, you know, maybe we could have this. Well, I know this person.
Yeah.
For me, this person is usually, I like to put Hillary James from Bathtub Sig. I like to have her play cello on every record that I produce.
Yeah. No, it's always good to have some string players on hand that are talented, wonderful, and reliable.
Who else did I have on this record? Oh, I have... So Cole, the saxophone on the song Red is Cole. Yeah. All the other saxophone on the record is my uncle, David Sudak, my jazz uncle in Tucson.
Okay.
Who I've spent very little time with, sort of growing up, but we connected over music when I was a teenager. I'm pretty sure he was a person who turned me on to Anoni.
Oh.
Anoni and the Johnsons when I was like 14 or something. Thanks, Uncle.
Thanks.
But
Thanks, Jazz
I just needed this was I had him sort of do the saxophone early on in the sort of first iteration of the record, and I just treated him like a MIDI instrument. I gave him very little freedom. I would say, this is the riff, play this. No, I want this trill. That's not it on the 8th note. I want it on the 16th note. Closer to the mic, whatever, less reverb. I was very exacting. He was very generous. It was funny. It was, like a 2-day latency MIDI instrument, but he was very helpful. And I think it cracks me up that he's on the record, but I'm very glad for it.
Yeah. Yeah. These aren't like, it's not like you sat down one day and made a list of all the people you want on the record. It's just, again, the people that you continue to work with and have had fruitful relationships with, and just people that you know and trust, or that somebody knows and wants to think, hey, they'd be cool for this. And it's not quite spontaneous, but a little bit more spontaneous, I guess. Like, it's just like, well, hey, this person would be able to do this, and let's see how that works, and let's see how that sounds. And then end up with,
and it's just what's at hand. You know, I think when I started making this record, I didn't have a label at the time. I didn't have an advance or a timeline. And, in that situation, you have a lot of freedom because there's not, these sort of, these factors that determine how you get to make the thing. But also you have no money. So you have to scrap stuff together. And often you do much better for that, I think.
Yeah.
But also, give me $10,000.
Just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Give me $1 million and see what I can pull together.
Exactly.
Shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to ask about the 2 visuals, at least the 2 that are out now, the 2 music videos for the record, for Red and for Shovel. Talk a little bit about why those were the songs that ended up feeling like they had a visual companion, or how they kind of came together. What was the experience of making those videos like, since they're both very distinct? But
both scary in different ways. I don't know. Okay, the first one, Red, I always knew that I was going to want to do a video for that. And I think that always felt like the lead single to me. I think that's the best song that I've made. I think it's the most compelling song that I've made. For listeners who have not seen the video, it's me sort of like in a dark field, kind of like sort of being hunted by Alan Sparhawk I think he's wearing coveralls. Is he wearing coveralls?
Like overalls or something. Yeah. It looks like a train engineer.
Yeah, spooky train engineer. A lot of it we shot on trail cams. I sing a lot about being a woman. I sing a lot about being being an animal, and I think that I sing on that song. I sing a lot about sort of trying to be like a woman, behave like a woman in certain ways, and sort of overshooting and ending up behaving like an animal. And when we were sort of planning out that video, I made that video with my friend and collaborator Nick Nurburn, who's a wonderfully talented visual artist who lives here in Minneapolis. I was thinking a lot about these videos. You ever see these videos where it's like a doe or a fawn in a trail cam? Oh, we caught a video of a doe playing in a puddle. Yeah. That kind of shit. I wanted to do a sort of like more demonic version of that, where sort of, what if the doe is aware of the camera, and it sort of becomes a performance,
Yeah.
there's this sort of decision to be surveilled, or, you know, I think asking this question of, can you run, you know, so straight and so fast into a trap, a very clear trap that the trap sort of breaks. And here the trap is sort of, you know, just generally, I guess, sort of the idea of being observed.
Yeah.
So that was yeah, that was an interesting one to make. And I didn't realize this until the next day, but I was outside in my tiny little my skimpy little suit all day, and I think it was like, you know, it's like 40 degrees, and I had COVID.
Oh no!
Which I realized the next day. What can you do?
What can you do?
The shovel video, keeping it in the Sparhawk family, was shot by my pal Hollis Sparhawk, who is a visual artist and musician in Duluth, and the daughter of my pal Alan. She and I noticed that we had the same camcorder. We have the same very shitty camcorder. And I made that music video with my mom, who is not an artist, and I think it sort of worked because of that. Just I saw this photo of my mom in the 90s a couple months ago, where she looks exactly like me. She has short hair. She's like she's making this face that I might make, and I was just thinking about how maybe I'll look I look now like she looked back then. I wonder if I'll look like her more in the future. But yeah, I got obsessed with this idea of being twins with my mom. So we did this video where we both wear little muscle shirts and slicked our hair back with hair gel like Trinity from The Matrix. Wore blue jeans, and I drew all my tattoos onto her. And we just did rock and roll stuff. We just did rock and roll antics and sang into microphones that were connected to each other, you know, and we're sort of a mirror version, both of us older and younger than each other, in this weird sort of loop. I think in the past, I maybe used to sort of lean into this pretty popular queer writing trope of, you know, writing to the younger self to say, oh, look, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, I'm just bored of doing this.
Yeah.
This was very important for me at the time, but, oh, look, there's a future, younger self, there's a way to be, people are going to see you and care for you, you're going to be in community with people, maybe you'll even get to have sex one day. And I sort of left that. I was like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. But I was like, okay, maybe we can flip that, and the younger self takes care of the older self.
Yeah, it's more mutual than
catharsis.
Yeah,
Reminds the self of something. So that's sort of what I was getting at with that, and it's, you know, it's goofy and it's fun. Making movies is a fucking pain in the ass. It's very difficult. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, it's a combination of being a pain in the ass and fun a lot of the times, and it's kind of fully both. At least,
yeah. Well, I love to complain too about, you know, how everything you have to make so many, you know, promotional assets. You know, there's so much. I gotta get a clip of this music. Every single's got to have a music video. You know, or people aren't gonna listen to it or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, I love to complain about that because it is absurd. You know, sort of like MTV or whatever, like put us in this place where, in order to present, you know, this medium of music, which on its own is very difficult and labor intensive to make. In order to present that, you have to also make a short film. What the fuck is that?
It's twice the work for the same output, or the same outcome.
I have to admit that I do enjoy it a little bit. I like making my movies, but I don't want to have to make my movies.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be, or you don't want it to be like a requirement or like a task. that is
Yeah.
to be completed.
Oh, I have one more thought though about the shovel video that I want
Yeah.
to share. Is that my mom, Nancy Sudak, great lady. She was so gracious. She's not an artist. You know, she does not go crazy. She just met the situation in such good faith and was so generous with her willingness to sort of to meet me. It was a very special moment for us. We're very close, but it was just cool. It was cool to see her do this thing, to sort of meet me in this thing that I do. And I sent her the song before we did the shoot, and I said, you have to memorize this so you can lip sync it. And and she texted me like, some days after that, was like, this is hard to do. It's hard to do this without actually singing.
Yeah.
And I said, Mom, you can sing. You can totally sing, and you should.
Yeah.
We're not using the audio from this camcorder.
Yeah, we're not miking
song.
you.
But it was just funny because it made me realize, I was like, oh yeah, like people who don't do this stuff, I guess, haven't really had to think about how that kind of shit comes together.
Yeah.
But everything I used for that music video, I got some boys extra medium wife beaters or wife pleasers. I won't say wife pleasers. I'll say muscle shirts.
Muscle shirts.
That was $14. I got 2 packs of Crayola markers to do the tattoos. Some more dollars. And I got a $4 tub of hair gel for us to use. I think everything came to $28. And later that day, I was able to return everything. I think it was my lowest budget music video ever. Got every cent back.
Every cent. That's a good feeling. Cool. Thinking a little bit more broadly, keeping New Virginity and the stuff you've been working on recently in mind, but more just this can be totally open. What is something that you either have always loved and appreciated about yourself in your creative process, or maybe something that you've grown to have affection for and grown to connect with in how you approach your art form and you approach how you make music? Just something you love and appreciate about yourself in that way. Not to get too therapy-ish.
I think what's important to me is that I think when I started doing this, it felt like such a sort of individualist pursuit. I was so interested in the sound of my own voice and what I had to say. Of course, I'm still interested in that. You have to be, but the more that I've done this, the more that it's sort of cued me into, working with these wonderful people that I get to work with, surrounding myself with these people is maybe the actual thing. I think I like the doing of it as much as I like the thing that it makes. And in the doing of it, you find yourself in this ecosystem of care and challenge from these marvelous people, and it's a very unique experience that I haven't had anywhere outside of this work, right? So, I think what I appreciate about how I approach this is that I've been able to make it, I think like many people have, a medium for connecting with my community of practice, and getting to recognize and hold and be held by these people who I love so much and really see and feel seen by.
Well put. Cool. This is probably the only repeat question I hope from the last time we talked. But I like ending interviews with this question, especially for local folks. Who are some local artists, musicians, bands that you want to just recommend, that you're a fan of, that you think more people should know about, or just want to affirm how cool they are?
Yes.
The local music shout out corner is the terrible unofficial name we have for this segment.
Let me have 2 seconds to think about this so that I don't regret who I forgot.
The magic of editing gives you as much time as you need.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna cuss a bunch while I think, because I know you'll cut it out. Fuck.
Well, that's what you think.
That's all you're gonna keep.
Just the interview just ends with fuck.
Tell me about the record. Fuck shit. Okay, here I go. Some people I'm excited about right now are Nona Envy. Formerly of Dark. She's well, I don't know how much I should share about what she's been doing, but she's been busy, and she is such a powerful and captivating and wild songwriter and player. She's unbelievable on the keys, and just has like a true mastery of the weird kind of songwriting that only she can do. It's an absolute pleasure to get to see her do her thing, and she's in my band now, which I'm very grateful for.
That's a
she's on another fucking level.
Yeah.
And she made me a smoothie a couple weeks ago that just really something changed inside of me. It really put me in a good place.
What kind of smoothie was it? If you even remember.
The right kind of smoothie. Okay. I signed an NDA.
It's a very special smoothie.
And then I'm very thrilled to be working with I think I can talk about this. I'm producing and engineering the debut full length for Lamar, for Joffrey Lamar Wilson, my good buddy and such a enormously talented songwriter with what you might call a golden voice. We're neighbors. He's played on some of my stuff. I think his writing is stunning and prescient. I think the way that he sort of interacts with community and sort of, is able to kind of bring people into the same room together with his work is really inspiring and sort of prescient for this strange moment that we're in the music industry. He's marvelously talented, and I love listening to him sing. And so handsome too.
We're going to cut out everything except for the part where you say that he's handsome, which is still very true, and maybe enough said, but one of many beautiful things. Cool. That about wraps up what I have for you. Anything else to add, or anything we didn't cover?
Come see my release show at the Turf Club playing with Brent Penny, Al Sparhawk. It's going to be a Buckaroo Bonanza. Listen to my record, buy my record, Venmo me.
Yeah, there's vinyl, so pick that up if you're a vinyl
and it's
head.
Deluxe. Yeah, it's going to be stunning. I think it's going to be a very high quality product.
We love high quality
guarantee.
Trademark.
Yeah. What else? I mean, world peace. Kiss your friends deeply.
Definitely kiss your friends. Well, that's a good note to end on. Thanks so much for your time, Nat. It was a pleasure chatting with you about the record. I'll reiterate.
Aly, it's been a treat.
Listen to Virginity.
The best local interview I've ever had in my life.
You have been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share so we can stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. You can find information from this podcast and other important links in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support us, please consider subscribing on Patreon for early access to episodes, live sessions, and other bonus content. You can also subscribe to our Substack for a regular newsletter with reviews, ramblings, and other written content. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.